Hi, everyone. Dom Famularo. I am back again on Mondays. I love these spots at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time where I get a chance for the Mapex Drum Company to feature certain people that are extremely influential in not only on the playing aspect, but also in the business side. And I think we have someone extremely special today who really clarifies both of those roles. So I'd like everyone to welcome and bring in Mr. Jeff Mulvihill.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Dom. How you doing, man? Thank you for having me. What a great series this has been. I'm honored to be a part of it.
Thanks, Jeff. You know, this is when this started several months ago, and we were putting the ideas together with people now that are challenged with what has happened with the pandemic. When this started, it really kind of worked out well because it allows us to deliver different people and personalities, those that are only professional drummers and only do that, and then people who have been able to widen their career, which is what you have done so brilliantly in that you're able to balance having a performing career in both the classical and pop drum set and percussion area, but you're also extremely instrumental in the branding of Mapex and what you're doing by videos you're putting out, working on product, designing all of this. I want to get into all of this, Jeff.
Wow, you make it sound so exciting. I'm flattered. I've not listened to it described in such a way. Wow.
Well, it really is exciting, Jeff, because you think about it, playing is one thing, keeping up that playing, but when you can balance an internal, you are an extremely important backbone behind the branding of Mapex. And this is so important to have people like yourself who have the vision as not only as artists and performing, but have this underestimated business skill that really can see the bigger picture of how this product sits globally.
Yeah. I think the business skill part of it is maybe the most interesting part of this conversation because it really isn't all that official or academic. Honestly, it's really just taking my knowledge of music and knowledge of drums and knowledge of drumming and knowledge of playing in bands and playing in orchestras and playing on stage and applying that to a little bit of common sense or combining it with a little bit of common sense.
Yeah.
And then, a little bit of mathematics along the way and a little bit more common sense. And it's it's not uncommon in our industry. If we look at big brands in the music business, most of them are, let's say, successfully driven by those who are musicians rather than business people. There's a lot of examples of that, and a lot of the brands that we know and see and play and hit every day.
Well, it's kind of interesting. You say in certain areas, like we talk about just the process of the common sense issue. I love your humility because it takes a certain level of brilliance in being able to see the bigger picture of what the business is about, to be able to learn quickly and adapt to what is needed to propel these brands globally. It's not easy, and I've seen you at work, and it's been brilliant. So let's go back down to the beginning of kind of where did music enter your life? How old were you when you got involved in playing, and how that all began?
My musical story is very typical for an American guy. Honestly, my grandmother on my mother's side was a church organist and started teaching me the piano at a young age. When I was in 6th grade, that's when the school band started in 6th grade for us, where I went to school. And it was really just looking at the instruments in the room or the list or whatever it was. And I just kind of said, I want to play the drums. It was really just like that. And I was hooked as that 6th grade kid, making those sounds with these incredible instruments that the sound means so much to us. When you hear a cymbal crash or when you hear a bass drum thump or something like this, it just hooked me, Dom. And that's literally as simple as it gets. And I was all in almost immediately after that.
So it's interesting. So the school music programs, which are now being depleted and squashed down as we speak, that was a very, very important part of your getting involved with music.
For sure. I had, you know, done my my childhood time at the piano, if you want to call it that. I practiced my half an hour a day, and I learned my little recitals and things like this. But I knew that wasn't it. I knew I loved music somehow, and the drums are what really hooked me at that sixth grade age. And as you move through, in seventh and eighth grade, I was able to be a part of a jazz band, which sort of drove the hook even deeper. And
Yeah.
then in high school, you know, you join a marching band, and you all of a sudden, as soon as you sign up for that, it's like you have 100 of your best friends immediately. And it's quite something that, and so, yes, school music it was huge for my development as a musician.
And think about what you were exposed to. You were exposed to concert band music, jazz band, marching music. There was a wide variety of music that you were being influenced by
Yeah,
at a young age.
sure. And a lot of it is mysterious to a youngster. You know, I was listening, you know, at the same time I'm listening to records at home. My older stepbrothers and stepsisters had Van Halen and Rush and all of the things that you grew up listening to in the 80s. Was born in the 70s, but I'm an 80s kid for sure. So all of that, hair metal was huge. I love Twisted Sister. I love Motley Crue. I love all those bands from that period. Um, I wanted to be on MTV as early as I can remember, holding a pair of sticks. I'm like, you know, I wanted to do that. There are a lot of drummers early or older than myself who trace that famous Ringo Starr on the Ed Sullivan Show as a moment.
Yeah.
I don't have a particular moment, but that era is what really solidified my interest. And I wanted to do the impossible, Dom. I wanted to try to be the best total drummer and percussionist at everything. I wanted to be the drum set player, the marching guy, the orchestral timpanist. I wanted to be the electronics guy. I wanted to compose. I wanted to do everything. And, you know, after a while, you discover that it's really hard to absolutely do it all. And it started to sort of define a little bit as I grew up and realized that it was a huge undertaking to try to do every bit of it.
I got to tell you something. Let's not underestimate yourself, because you've done it all. You played in festivals. You played at, country music halls. You played at different, auditoriums everywhere. You played with the symphony. I get a kick out of it when I look at this here. The symphony orchestras in Nashville, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Kingsport, Tennessee, Birmingham, Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, Evansville, Indiana. I mean, you really have, from a symphonic standpoint, done that. But then also in the drum set area, you play with some great players, Chris Cavanaugh and Craig Wayne Boyd, who was the winner of The Voice in 2014. So you're in the thick of this. So you were listening to drummers at that time, and that was the MTV. We got to remember, MTV was playing constant videos of drummers, and you could see the band playing. It was of the band playing of that tune that they were trying to promote. That was a very influential television show that was powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really, I guess, of its time, the biggest thing that we had to get a glimpse. And that was revolutionary even then. We can see and hear everything now. We've got everything on every device we own.
Yeah.
But then, tuning in to the top 20 video countdown on Friday nights to see who was going to get knocked out this week versus last week, that was a big deal. And I always loved that stuff. I've been in a million bands in addition to what we've talked about prior to this interview, garage bands, local bands, touring bands here and there once or twice. I feel like I've been, all over hell and back playing the drums. And it sort of wound up in Nashville here and wound up with planting a foot on the industry side of it.
Yeah.
Completely by accident.
Yeah.
It's really an accidental story.
Well, let's talk about first in the learning process of you learning drums now. So now you're being influenced, and you mentioned several bands, Van Halen. Who else was around that time that was influencing you and who you were listening to?
Rush was huge for me.
Nice.
Rush and Van Halen were my two favorites as a kid for sure. I had an appreciation for classical music from my grandmother, like I told you, learning the piano, and didn't realize how true my appreciation would be until later. Um, so I had a couple of key band director personalities who gave me some insight into how to find some jazz to listen to, and I really got into that kind of thing. When you take classical music as a young person and just listen to it at the piano, it can be one thing. It can be incredibly beautiful and deep, but when you find yourself on stage making a sound with a pair of cymbals or a gong or a big bass drum or a set of timpani with like 90 other people in a big room, there's absolutely nothing else like it. And you know, we for those listening or watching this webcast, kind of know the orchestral percussionist is the guys in the back in the tuxedos just playing little triangle notes here or there. There is so much depth to an orchestra making sounds and layers and colors, and the feeling is incredible. It's as incredible as being the guy at the drum set when you're locked in with a bass player and a lead guitarist and a singer in front of people who are screaming their heads off. It's as incredible in a different way.
Yeah. Boy, it really is very, very powerful. So at that point, when did it start becoming like a profession? You came out of school. Were you taking private lessons at the time? Were lessons happening at that time?
I went right from high school to the University of Tennessee, majoring in music. So I went right into college. As soon as I finished an undergraduate degree, I went right and straight into a master's degree in percussion. So I have 6 years of school. And then it's kind of funny. I just moved to Nashville and tried to play the drums like any other drummer would. So that's what I mean by at the beginning of this, you know, the academics and the official type of learning, it is so combined with just being a part of the scene, all, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting to see. But you've had this very interesting, different kind of a career. So now, what happened first? Did you start performing with orchestras first? Was that the first part, or were there bands you were playing with?
Simultaneous. I played my first professional orchestral gig as a junior in high school, and then probably started playing professional drum set with some wedding bands and things like this about the same time. But it was always, I always wanted to, like I mentioned a second ago, I wanted to do it all. So I pursued and took everything that I could get my hands on.
Boy, how interesting.
Yeah. So it started, professionally speaking, my performances in a professional capacity, drum set playing, percussion playing, and orchestral playing happened all together as opportunities came up at the same period.
So now you're in this first experience. So you're basically young. You're in this orchestra, your first professional gig.
Mm-hmm.
This had to be overwhelming at a certain point. You're reading the music. You're in the depth of what's happening. You've got this large orchestra, and you're making it happen.
I remember being absolutely thrilled. You know, I told myself, I remember telling myself this and telling my folks as a young person, a teenager, I don't really care how this goes. I just want to make my professional living in the drum business. So, you know, I love, as a listener, I love all kinds of music. As a player, I fit into all kinds of different scenarios or scenes. And it's funny, I haven't thought about this in a long time, Dom, but you've got me thinking now. At the same time as it sounds maybe exciting to some people watching this, or sounds interesting that there's all this variety, it's also the greatest challenge. It's the hardest thing about it, because I never fell into a focus. I never fell into just being the greatest rudimental player, or the greatest timpanist, or the greatest conga player, or the greatest drum set bebop player. I can do all of those things pretty okay, but I'm not like the ace at any of them, or any one of them. That's where the industry enters, and that's where I found it most beneficial to have all of that experience and apply it to drum and percussion business, because I can speak intelligently to all of those different personalities.
Well, it seems like the degree of your path was kind of preparing you for all of this. It was preparing you for not only the performance side, being on stage, but then being in the business side that moves this machine forward, which is the branding of a company like Mapex. I mean, that's you seem like you really have an incredible balance of all of that. Some people don't have that. You've been blessed with that ability of being able to kind of adapt like a chameleon and make it work.
Sure. And I guess, that's a good piece of advice for anyone, especially in the times we're living in right now. Adapt, 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 and adapt again, right? We all need to figure out, even today, even those of us who still have something that we're proud to still be able to do. There's a number of people who are struggling. Yeah. And I encourage anyone watching or listening, if you need advice or are seeking to give advice to someone else, adapt and find another niche to add to your belt, to add to your music making.
Well, it sounds like, a part of that, in that adapting part, is the desire of the individual to want to survive.
Yeah.
If you want to survive, you're going to have to learn different skills, and you're going to have to learn them pretty quickly.
Well, you're exactly right. And so as a young person, I was 23 or 24 years old, and I, after finishing school and playing a bunch of music in school and as a professional in one part of Tennessee, in Knoxville, my fiance, who was shortly thereafter my wife, had a job in Nashville. And I was like, well, Nashville's as good a place as any to go. So it was her work that led us here. And I thought, well, I'm good. I'll get gigs. It's easy, right? You just have to be good. Well, never have I met so many incredible musicians in a scene like Nashville. And I learned pretty quick that everyone is good. And you've got to adapt, right? And I went through a summer of little to no gigs, just trying to meet some people and try to figure it out. But you still got to pay the bills, and I knew that I didn't want to like mow lawns or deliver pizza or something. Like there's honor in that. Go do it if you have to. No, I'm not knocking it, but I knew I didn't want to, and that's where I ended up. By accident talking to somebody, and I went to the building, the Pearl Drums building here in Nashville. Yeah. And I actually started my industry career in the warehouse at Pearl Drums. And through, over time, meeting some people and being asked to do a few different jobs there, I ended up at Pearl for 7 years while I was building my music career here in town. And, that sort of ran its course, and I had built up enough music. So I left the company in 2007 and played music full time. I had built up enough contacts for playing clubs and other, some of those orchestras that you listed earlier are within a 300-mile radius of Nashville. We used to refer to it, I was a member of the Interstate Philharmonic. Where you called to get sub work and to play extra work for different orchestras from time to time. So you piece it together and you call it a freelance music career. And I'm proud of that. This is a big scene full of great players, and to have made a living doing nothing but playing music on stage for I guess it was 7 or 8 years straight. It sort of was a milestone. I went and I did that, right? So it was the realization of a goal from when I was a younger man. And I think we sometimes, as musicians, we talk about goals and we talk about structure and we talk about let's make this happen. Sometimes your goals are woven right in your dreams. And when you don't, or when you least expect it, wait a minute. I just made one of my dreams come true.
Absolutely.
Isn't that weird? You don't even realize that at the time. I'm not even sure I've talked about it in that way until I'm sitting here thinking about it right now. But as things change and you grow up a little bit, we ended up with a family, and I ended up on the road somewhere in the middle of nowhere with my young son in the hospital. And I said, well, maybe I need to find some other way to adapt, because I don't want to be out of town if I got to take care of my family, right? So just like playing the drums or playing in a scene, you develop relationships. You have favorite players that you recommend, players recommend you, and it's not altogether different on the industry side. You make contacts and relationships with people in companies. And I, turned around after 6 or 7 years, and a lot of my Pearl friends were here. For one professional reason or another, companies' jobs change and people move around. So a couple of friends here at Mapex said, hey, why don't you, if you're looking for something, come and try this. And, I started as an assistant. I don't even know if the position exists here at this company anymore. It's, I was an assistant manager in the percussion area or something. I can't remember exactly what it was called. And, I worked for our mutual friend, Chris Hankus, and I worked for Joe Hibbs. And, that guy was like going through another degree, like studying the ins and outs of everything, man. That guy had it down. And I owe a lot to Joe as a mentor. May he rest in peace. And I ended up with this gig after a couple of years. I'm thrilled about it, but I'm sad about it at the same time.
It's pretty amazing. And being prepared for any of these positions, whether it's a performance position or whether it's an inside the industry position, for the most part, we're really never totally prepared. But we have to have the courage to take that chance and take that leap. But you mentioned this. I got to bring this comment up here. Look at this person here. Now, Jeff Hamilton, he says, pretty okay is an understatement, which means you're playing a heck of a lot better than your humility is leading on to, is for sure. And Jeff Hamilton, who is a phenomenal player and musician at such a high level, I had the chance of interviewing him, and I think he plays on a circuit. He plays in a caboose train that goes from like Duluth, Iowa to Waco, Texas. And I think that's his job on the plane, playing just solo drums. I think that's what Jeff is doing.
I am sure you're right. The caboose train from where?
Jeff has got a list of artists that he's worked with, which are the who's who.
Of course.
And he's such a deep philosopher, and that comes out in his music.
Sure. And it comes out in it comes out in his personality. He's the real deal. He's genuine. I've got him to thank. I've got a number of great colleagues and artists on the Mapex roster, including yourself, Dom. You've been a great pal over the years. Guys like the great Ralph Peterson. I know he's been a part of this webcast as well. The longest running Mapex artist there is, Ralph. I gotta thank him for all his conversations and friendship over the years. Guys like Russ Miller, Steve Finnick. I mean, a number of these guys who have become great friends through the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. It's like being in a band.
How do you find the balance? Because I mean, each of these jobs in particular, like for example, like even like in the A&R, position that you're kind of in, where you're dealing with these artists. I mean, you're dealing with so many different artists, and you've got to organize yourself. Are you an organized person?
I'm going to answer this one carefully. I'm somewhere between an organized person and a real hot mess. It's a lot of yes. I mean, yes, you have to have some organization. You got to have a calendar. We've got to have a roadmap to know what we're doing here. When you see, drums in video, or drums on the shelf at a store, or drums on the floor in a showroom somewhere, drums on a clinic, drums at places like PASIC or the Drumeo Festival or the UK Drum Show, it it doesn't happen just, you just don't add water to the recipe and all of a sudden that just happens. A lot of things that have to happen along the way. So in that sense, I'm organized. But you gotta have instinct. You gotta have good instincts that you can rely on. You gotta be able to, if you forgot to organize it or you didn't, or there's a surprise, you got to do what we said a minute ago. You got to adapt.
It sure is. And that adapting ability, which is, we mentioned Jeff, for example. Jeff comes up, caboose, Tom, what did you have for breakfast? Point well taken, Jeff, for sure. It's amazing that when a challenge comes up, when an artist needs something, you got to be there. And sometimes it doesn't happen within a decent schedule. Sometimes it's last minute and you got to act and you got to know where the product is. I mean, that takes a whole nother level of skill to make that happen.
Right. So in jobs like this in the industry for music brands, you've heard the expression, you wear a lot of hats. Sometimes you're an accountant. Sometimes you're a shipping and receiving manager. Sometimes you're a salesman. Sometimes you're marketing. Sometimes you're social networking. Sometimes you're artist relations. Sometimes you're events management. Sometimes you're best friends. Sometimes you're, psychologist. Sometimes you're just a lot of things.
Yeah.
And some of them can be learned and some of them can be or only be learned through experiencing them yourself. I think I'm a different industry guy now than before the time I was a dad. I think that changed me, and now my approach is different to a few things here and there. And it's a living, breathing, beautiful, ugly mess most of the time. But Dom, in addition to being adaptive, you got to be creative. And you are no stranger to doing some things differently or adapting yourself to new things or keeping your eye on the passion and figuring out how to do your thing as the world changes around you. And, I'd like to go out on a little bit of a limb here on this episode of the webcast. I want to flip the script just a little bit and get into the mind of Dom Famularo. And I brought someone here to the office to help me out. Say hello to your friend and mine. Who's this guy right here?
Oh my God, is that Dom Famularo? Holy cow, from Nashville, Tennessee. Dom, how you doing, buddy?
Hey everyone, say hello to Sean Fuller, the one and only Sean Fuller.
I can't even see where I'm at right now, but my God, Dom, you look awesome.
Sean, it's always great to see you, man. Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, brother, man, listen, Jeff told me to come up with some stuff that I needed to ask you. So here's the deal.
We have notes.
I have notes. I went on to the WikiLeaks.
Now,
is that on the interwebs?
He's the internet.
The internet.
And
I'm sorry,
Wikipedia. And Dom, you have a brilliant Wikipedia. It's amazing.
It's amazing. So I got your biology off of that.
Now wait a minute.
What?
Dom, he found your biography. He found your bio.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know it was that. I thought it was biology. My bad. So listen, man, just wanted to run this past you. I took some notes here, and some of the notable things. You're born in 1953.
I was,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
So I took some notes here, some things that happened in 1953. Let's be honest. And I'm not saying you're old, but here we go. First color television.
Whoa.
1953.
Yeah, exactly right.
Transistor radios were being produced in 1953.
Absolutely.
The Korean War ended in 1953. Again, I'm not saying you're old by any means. I would never do that live on your podcast. Dwight D. Eisenhower was inaugurated. Yeah.
He was correct.
Okay. Oddly enough, the polio vaccine was created. Weird year, kind of a coinky dink. I don't know. I'm just
exactly right.
Out there. And amongst all those other major events, Dom Famularo was born.
What a year.
What a year that was.
Woo!
Now listen here. Hang on here. I made some more notes here. Is it true? This is just a question. I mean, we want to get to the nuts and bolts of things here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to like beat around the bush and all that good stuff. So is it true that when a drummer is at the front door, you will know it is a drummer by the knocking speeding up and he never knows when to come in? Okay, so and at that point, do you pay the pizza man and how much do you tip?
Wow. I mean, we're getting real insightful here.
These are questions people want to know. You know, I mean, I love you like a brother, but I'm going to ask you some down to earth questions. Okay? And how much do you tip the pizza man? Let's be honest. People want to know that. Are you a 10%, 15, 20? What are you?
I'm a 20 and sometimes a 25% person, because if they're delivering that pizza, they need all the help they can get, for sure.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you, you being from New York, I got to tell you, I loved you in all the Godfather movies, man. You're a great actor. You're a great actor. I don't care what Jeff said behind the scenes here earlier about 20 minutes ago. I won't get insightful on that, but I'll just say that I like you. I think you're a good person.
We all love you, Dom.
It also said on your WikiLeaks page during your biology that you're considered drumming's global ambassador.
Yeah.
And first of all, Mr. President, I want to thank you. I didn't know that you were on the ticket, so I mean, I'd have voted for you if you were on the ticket. But I'll be honest with you, I ain't using those daggum Dominion machines, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's just leave that right there.
Well, I'm going to try to ask Dom a serious question.
What's wrong with my question?
Your questions are serious. I'm gonna ask it in a different way, Dom. I want for those who are still patient enough to still be tuning into this madness at this point. Could you give us a quick? How did you go from simply being a professional drummer and private teacher to expanding globally? And in your mind, did you want to do this from the very beginning, or did it just sort of happen along the way?
Well, a great question, Jeff and Sean. You know, it's kind of interesting. And when I think back, I am now 67 years young. 67 years young. And I am having more fun now teaching and performing and being as active as I've ever been before. I have no plans of ever retiring. I don't use the R word retiring. I use the R word to reinvent. I think that's something which to me allows me to understand that if I commit to be a constant student of the art form and I keep learning, that's where the journey begins. For me, at the age of 11 years old, I heard, Jeff, like you said, I heard the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, February 9th of 1964. And I said, what the heck are they doing? That's what I want to do. And I basically said, I want to now play the drums. And what would it be like if I could play the drums and make a living and travel the world? So that was my first question that I had for myself. Could that be possible? Well, I started studying with as many great teachers as I could. And because I live on Long Island, just outside of New York City, all of the great teachers that were here, the Joe Morellos, the Papa Joe Jones, the Shelley Manns, Max Roach, Jim Chapin, they were all in the area. So I seeked them all out and started to steal knowledge from them to see where this can take me. Playing with different bands, whether it was B.B. King, Lionel Hampton, all these Tito Puente, all these different bands in the New York area, doing some jingle dates. It started to grow where then I had the desire to want to get involved in the educational field. Because I felt if I could go out there and inspire more people to play, I could play the drums and also educate. And that opened up a whole nother world where now companies invested in me to go out there and do these different clinics worldwide. And as I built this global reach, I have performed, I stopped counting at 60 countries. I thought that was enough to say I performed in over 60 countries. And with that, what I've learned from that, I've had the chance of meeting so many great players like Sean, like yourself. And with this, I steal from you guys as I'm stealing from you guys right now.
Yeah, well, you're a thief. You're a thief. I'll tell you this. Nobody wants to know about all that good stuff. All we want to know is it boxers or briefs.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Who the hell wears underwear today?
Exactly.
Right.
I'm not going to go there.
I think on the list of countries, do I remember something in the Caribbean, like the Bahamas or something? You've done a clinic?
I have, yes.
What's
a clinic in the Bahamas like?
Yeah. Hey,
Well, first of all, you're wearing Bermuda shorts. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Bermuda shorts.
And you go there, and the people that come there are many tourists and many of the locals that want to be inspired like any other place on this planet. And you start playing, and before you know it, you're performing. They're dancing. People are up there jamming together.
Woo!
It's party time.
running
Bermuda
around.
shorts are coming off.
It's Bermuda shorts and banana hammocks, right? I mean, I got my first banana hammock from there, man. I tell you what. And you know what's weird though, man? Like later on, I used it as a strainer. It was the weirdest thing, man. I just like, I'm going to strain my noodles in this thing, and that's what it ended up being. I couldn't wear it no more because I got a little bit of jelly down below there, so I got a little fat, and I didn't want to wear it. Nobody wants to see me in that. You know what I'm saying?
Adapt. Continuously
I had
adapting.
to adapt. There you go. I didn't know you were. I mean, you got clinics and clinicians. I mean, are you a doctor? I mean, what do you specialize in?
I'll tell you something. I specialize.
Clinic. It's not that kind of clinic, man.
Well, I thought he was a doctor.
Well, my specialization is just that, Sean. It's opening up minds in the drumming world.
So you work on the brain. I bet you could get into that one real good. There, look at it. You ain't got to shave nothing off of it. It's easy.
Whew. I got just the right crowbar to use to open that mind for sure.
That's great. Tell us, Dom, about some of where, as a teacher, where it began for you. You've taken it worldwide, but do I remember, I couldn't find it anywhere for this today. I saw a black and white photograph of you and some other guys. I think Liberty DeVito was in the photo, and it was, I think, from the early days at the Long Island Drum Center. Were you a part of like a teaching crew, lesson crew at LIDC at some point?
After the Long Island Drum Center had started, actually, it was one of my ideas to open up a drum shop. And then I had moved to California in 1976. At that time, Jerry Rickey had wanted to open up a drum shop. I decided to not get involved in retail and stay involved in performing and education. The Drum Center was opened up in 1977. I flew back from California and got involved as their education director. I did different clinics in schools in the Long Island and New York area to bring more students in. And at one point, I was the education director. We had over 1,000 students and about 27 teachers. And I organized all of that to build up that, because I felt if you had a real good cushion of students that were coming in and they were learning from all these different teachers, that was going to be a way of being able to promote drumming to a much higher level. And that's pretty much what happened. So I was there from the start of that.
Well, what I really want to know is this hat right here. Do you want one? I can send you one.
Get out.
I would love that hat for sure.
Listen. Here's the final thing, because I got to get out into the deer stand. So I'm going to leave you with this. All right? I'm going to leave you with this. On a personal side note, you're an amazing person. I love what you're doing. You're incredible. Your advice is incredible. You're a great motivational speaker. You do everything out of your heart and out of your love. And it makes a person like me continue what he's doing, even at the ripe old age of, what am I now, 40, 48, 49? I stopped counting at some point because I didn't learn how to count past a certain number. But regardless, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you're doing, especially with this. I didn't mean to take over the chair here, but I wanted the adults to speak, if you know what I'm saying.
Get out of here.
Yeah. All right. So listen, you keep doing what you're doing. Me and you're going to crack open a beer in Nashville, Tennessee at some point here. And it might be 2 or 3. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But anyways, listen, have a great evening. I love you. And I hope everybody out there is doing wonderful during this time. And anyway, bye.
Get. Jeez. Okay.
Sean, thank you so much. Sean Fuller, what a fantastic. He is one funny son of a gun. I'll tell you.
Well, get out of here. Keep your social distance, you.
What a great visit to pop in. Well, first of all, that's what happens at Mapex. You never know who's going to pop in, who's going to walk in, especially in the Nashville area, man, which is fantastic.
Well, Tom, thanks for letting us do that, man. We wanted to rattle your chain just a little bit today. So I don't know how much more interesting it's going to be for the rest of this thing, but I just wanted to make sure I got to ask you a couple questions, because I think a lot of us see what you do today. A lot. I think probably viewers have grown up with you.
Yeah, it's funny.
as in some form or fashion, either in a magazine ad or on stage at their school or in their local drum store or where they've seen you. And I'm not sure a whole lot of us know where you started. And I knew Long Island Drum Center was a part of it. I knew your private teaching practice sort of was the epicenter that you took some of those tenets that you, those skills and teaching philosophies that you developed and just took it further and further and further out. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Absolutely, Jeff. And not much unlike what you've done here is I started to see that there were other skills that interested me, that was interest of me. So there's the skill of going out there and performing at a music store and talking about drums and inspiring people. That interested me. You know, writing drum books, that interested me. Writing articles for magazines, assisting companies with ideas as a consultant, that interested me. So I think what we have to do as individuals is you can have several different passions and you can have many different things that interest you. And if you want to be, again, organized, I am very organized. And by that organizational skill, I'm able to map out my agenda and go down and get to many different things in the day. This past week, last week, for example, I gave master classes and lessons to students in over 15 countries. So just from my studio here on the North Shore of Long Island, not only am I teaching master classes and private lessons, but I'm doing several of these interviews. And also I'm recording for an album. I've got a couple tunes I'm working on to record an album that a gentleman has hired me to do some tunes on an album.
Perfect.
And I'm getting prepared too. So I think in the early part of 2021, I'm going to be doing the Late Show, the Seth Meyers Show. I'll be doing that show, and I'll probably be shooting it all from my studio here. So I've got my Saturn V kit right here, with you can see microphones and cameras above me and cameras here. I've got side cameras, so I've got cameras all on the kit. So I've got my studio set up that I can do so much reach globally that's where the 21st century is at, to be creative in what we do and accept technology as our reach globally.
Right. And wow. I think too, it's fair to say that the audience that you are reaching is ready to do this virtually, rather than in the old days where we had to go somewhere and have a half an hour lesson with somebody in person. That there is value in that. There's merit in that. It's how I learned was private lessons in person. But here we are today with challenges. And in the year 2020, it doesn't have to be that way. You can still learn, you can still practice, and you can still be inspired by connecting with people digitally, right?
Absolutely, Jeff. And what's amazing about it, when you think about it, if a student drove to my studio here, it took them an hour to get here, and then we did an hour lesson and an hour back, one of the advantages we have now is we cut out 2 hours of travel time. So that means you can schedule more practicing time. And when I'm teaching a lesson this way, I'm seeing the student on their drum set. So they're in the complete comfort of their kit. So I'm seeing them on their kit, and I can see what their kit might need. One student the other day, he said, Dom, I want to use more of my left hand. So I recommended one of the Black Panther snare drums, which they went out kind of what they're looking to reach. I can recommend product and ideas for them by seeing them in their own setting.
I can't even imagine taking a lesson on my own instrument. It's something I don't think I've ever done.
Yeah.
I think probably a lot of people could say the same thing, who are at least over the age of 30 anyway, right?
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
That's pretty incredible.
And
I hadn't even thought of that part of it. Of course.
Yeah, and behind me, this drum kit is a Saturn IV. So I've got a Saturn IV here for the students. I've got my Saturn V that I use this here, for myself.
Yeah.
So with the two drum sets here, but when a student comes in, they've got to adjust the kit.
Yep.
The difference is that the advantage of coming to my studio is by having the two drum sets here. When they play them, every time someone sits behind one of my Mapex kits here, they want to buy a Mapex kit. The kit sells itself.
Great. Then I can go on vacation.
But now I want, if you can, talk about the new Evolution series and what they're doing with this now, because I had a chance to witness them. I saw them at the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Then you guys sent one of the Evolution kits to me in Vancouver when I did some teaching lessons for Drumeo. And then we did the Drumeo Festival, which you came to that after NAMM, which was an incredible festival. And that festival happened just at the end of February, just before this insane pandemic hit. So the timing of that festival was perfect.
That event was I think the last event I went to before we were quarantined and everything like that. It was right before the worst of it came to the USA. But Saturn, to talk about Saturn Evolution, I'm going to take just a quick second and talk about Saturn in general, because it has been a cornerstone or backbone series in the Mapex lineup for many, many years now. Almost for the entire 30 years of the brand, Saturn has been around. We've changed a few things with shell recipe, with some of the appointments, the mounting system, some of the lug casing design, and some of the things over the years. And what we've arrived at, what we're calling Saturn Evolution, I'm sort of considering it's like the greatest hits of Saturn. It's like it's like the best of that we've learned from our development over the life of the brand. So at the heart of it is the blended shell technology, which we take either maple or birch and blend it with walnut. And I didn't intend for this webcast to be a deep dive into product specs, but I think most of us as drummers are familiar with maple as being a standard in the industry, birch being a standard in the industry, each having their own pluses. And you combine it with walnut, which is a very rich, dark, round tone wood. And it gives each of those recipes, the maple or the birch, that sort of darkness, that roundness, that tonality that we love from bass drums and tom-toms especially. So in the past, Saturn has been known for maple walnut blended shells, and there have been limited editions in birch walnut blend, and we like, man, both are so awesome. How can we do both? So what we've done with this new Saturn Evolution series, it comes out in 2021. We did sort of lift the curtain. The last NAMM show, we were able to be together and decided with COVID-19 and everything affecting business in such a way, we sort of in the USA put it off to 2021. And I think it will really have made the difference. It's a better time to introduce something here coming out of a pandemic rather than going into one. Right. And so I think it's sort of that culmination where now you can build your own instrument using the combined shells to make your own sound. If you like the maple characteristic in the lower drums, perhaps maple is great for bass drums and floor toms. You want some clarity in the higher drums, the 8s and the 10s. It's nice to have a recipe. So we offer all of the sizes and all of the colors in both versions, all sort of tied up together with a new mounting system and some exciting new finishes, all for 2021. So we're excited about this one for sure.
Boy, this is fantastic. And you can see on the screen now, Marcus has contacted me recently and said, Dom, I want to know about Mapex. I told him at the Saturn, and his 2020 kit is on the way. So Marcus, thank you so much. This is how it works out. It's interesting with the drums and the sounds. I mean, I have consistently gotten a great sound on my Mapex kits in every country I played in. And I'm playing at the time before the pandemic, 10 to 15 countries a year. And I'm having a kit that was there. They always sound great. They always cut through no matter what room I'm in. And they always feel great. I mean, the sounding great is one thing, but they feel great. When I play how the heads respond and how I'm able to step into the instrument really is a great combination of what Mapex has done.
Well, thank you on behalf of the brand. I know you've hit on something that a number of people are saying, where it's the feel, it's the way the sound transfers when you play it with the stick. You're not fighting anything. You feel like the drum is giving back to you exactly what you're putting in, because we do have to play dynamically. We do have to interact with others and be expressive, and that takes different touches and different strokes. So when the instrument is working with you, rather than against you. It just makes you more comfortable as a musician to do what you're there to do, which is make beautiful music for people.
And it's funny when you say that, because at PASIC last year, when I heard Jeff Hamilton play, he came out and he played. And aside from him being such an incredible musician with his touch and his sensitivity and his compassion to the music, but he just has such a big sound with a trio that opened up, and the drums was a major part of how he delivered that sound.
Sure. And, you know, I think as you grow as a player, you might not even realize what you're looking for. Some don't. I didn't, as a younger person, know why I was having trouble with these drums or why I was having trouble with these heads or cymbals or something. It's an instrument altogether different from other wind players or guitar players or piano players.
Yeah.
You know, those instruments, you have your fingers attached to, you feel the guitar strings. If you know something's going wrong or something is, you can feel it in your fingers. We have these, you know, drumsticks between us and our instrument, and you really have to use your ears. You have to really use your ears to give you those messages on what to change. And if the instrument is just dialed wrong, dialed way out for somebody else, dialed for some other type of music that you're trying to play, you know, you're trying to play a trio gig on a heavy metal drum set or something, it is essential that you discover how to get your sound from your drum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's Steve Finnick has joined us. Evolution, great drums. I mean, and Steve, who I had a chance to interview also, another really deep artist at what he's doing, and of course, a fantastic educator too, on top of that.
Yeah, Steve's one of the good ones for sure. Thanks for watching, Steve. He's a guy that has a touch and feel for the drums like no other. Another one that's phenomenal player and great friend, been great over the years. Steve and I met, I think, at PASIC. It's been a few years ago when it must have been 15 or 14. We still had Joe, and Steve was interested in Mapex, and the three of us went to lunch, and we all fell in love.
Steve is he's just a great guy too, on top of that. Here's a drummer, Maxim Diomin, who's a phenomenal drummer from the Ukraine, who is a phenomenal teacher. And he said magnetic holders is a step into the 22nd century. What's happening now with Design Lab, out of the mind of Russ Miller, is a whole nother discussion.
That's been a huge development. Yeah, no doubt. A huge development for Mapex, the Black Panther Design Lab series, shell types, appointments, mounting system like no other. It has been the pinnacle for Mapex so far. We sort of launched that in 2018, and it's been with us since then, really leading the top of the catalog for sure. Beautiful, beautiful drums that, man, if you've not struck a Versatis kit or a Cherry Bomb kit for yourself, the words to describe it is something like we were trying to hint at earlier. It just feels good, man. They just feel beautiful to play. They give you back everything that you want to hear back from these things. I see interviews with other guys and quotes from other people where they say, well, it gives me everything I need. And like, well, what does that really mean? And I still don't know what it really means, but it's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, let's just talk for a couple of minutes about snare drums, because I was blown away by the snare drum selection that I heard at NAMM. And when I went down the line, each drum had its own personality. It had its own feel. It's had its own colorful sound. I was just blown away by the great variety of snare drums.
Right. Well, you know, Black Panther was pretty overdue for a revamp. It had been 10 or 11 years prior, for one reason or another, where we didn't really add much to it, the series in general. So we knew that, I guess I'm lost in my NAMM shows now, but the 2019 development year for 2020 launch was going to be huge for Black Panther. 14 new models, replacing everything that had come before, with new appointments, like you were saying, there's plenty of voices from what we, well, so you know what, I'm going to talk and just get upside down on myself. I told you earlier I wasn't terribly organized. This series development was extremely organized. Russ Miller was at the sort of the lead on the development of this, and defined for us, helped us understand what we call a sonic flow chart. Okay, so we didn't even start talking about sizes or maple or metal or whatever. We wanted dark, deep, dry sounds. We wanted piercing, cutting sounds. We wanted something that was really robust. So we made a sonic flow chart, and from the little 10-inch Wasp to the big Solidus, you know, in the lineup, you've got just the ideal voices for a snare drum selection. So other companies and for many years, you just go, okay, here's a good one. We're going to make the piccolo, the 5, the 6.5, and the 7 and the 8 all in one series. All of them brass, all of them steel, all of them maple, and we'll just make everything for everyone. Well, I don't know that. From here, I'm putting my business hat on right now. I don't know if you need to make all those drums, but if you make the best ones of each of those types and have all the voices represented, suddenly you've got a strategic offering to give the player the snare drum choices that really matter for the music they're playing. If you want something big, dark, and deep, we have it. If you want something small and piercing, we have it. It's a little bit more of a I don't want to talk ill of any of my competitors. It's a refined way of offering a snare drum series.
Yeah, and I think what Mapex has done is just that. Everyone offers what they offer, which is wonderful. There's some great product out there with all the companies. And I think what's happening is Mapex has found their own voice, and that voice is continuing to grow and resonate with people as they start to hear these snare drums. I mean, different people. Here's John Owens, a wonderful drummer from North Carolina. I have a Mapex snare that he loves. I mean, thank you, John. There's so many people that have, you know, Persuader or Predator. I mean, there are so many different people that are.
Predator, those are two of the hot ones right now, for sure.
Yeah. So people are attentive to it. They're listening. They're checking it out. Jeff, what you've done from a company standpoint, which has been so great to help brand Mapex and get the word out globally, to fine-tune product that is helpful, that brings great sounds and great joys and great fun to many drummers that hit every drum. It's fantastic what you're doing. The fact that you're still balancing performing, and the fact that you've got a wonderful family, that you're balancing all those together between the artistic, the business, and the family. You're doing it all, and you're doing it great.
Well, man, thank you. To frame it like that makes it sound a whole lot more exciting, but I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on this today. I love this series. All access with Dom Famularo. Are you kidding me? I'm thrilled. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Sean, again for me, too. He absolutely busted me up. He is completely out of control. And the more out of control he is, the more I love him, man. Jeff, thank you so much. Send my best to everyone there. Stay safe. Everybody have a wonderful holidays, but I'll see you next week. Next week, I'm going to have Amber Baker on December 21st at 2 o'clock with the band Luna Ray. So come on by. She's the daughter of Terry Baker. So we're going to have some great conversations with her also. So thank you so much, Jeff. Stay well. Sean, thank you so much, man. Look at that.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Dom. Happy New Year. Get your butt down here. I still got to get in the deer stand. All right, you go.
Thanks so much, man. We will do it for sure, for sure. Sean, we will do it. Jeff, thank you so much. Stay well. We'll talk soon.
All right, very good. Thank you, Dom. Peace.
Thanks. Bye-bye.